Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm with Jahat Ali, and I, for one, am very happy that Trump cannot shut the F up. All he has to do is shut the F up when it comes to Epstein, but he can't do it. He won't do it. And the more and more and more he talks about it, the more and more and more he incriminates himself, as we have seen today and yesterday. Danielle, I, for one, love it, because as I was just telling you right before you pressed record, if this is the thing that finally brings this mother effer down, you know what? So pure, so classic, a conspiracy theory with famous rich people and so many abuses of women. The same man who bragged about grabbing women by the pee and America rewarded him is brought down by the ghosts of Epstein and the laments of all the women, the girls, folks, who are the victims, who for 2 decades had no protector, no guardian, and no justice and no accountability. If this is a full circle moment, I mean, I know. Let me just be hopeful for a second, Danielle.
I know. I was going to say, I'm like, by all means, go ahead. It's Monday. Let's start with a little bit of hope. Go ahead.
I mean, you know what? Wouldn't it be just exquisite karma?
It would. I mean, it would be Shakespearean at this point. Like it would be gorgeous. So like, okay, folks, let's jump into it because there is so much to cover today. And so we start with Donald Trump is in Europe. He got a brilliant welcome from the Scots. My God, if you've just seen some of the clips, some of the protests, some of their signs calling Donald Trump as everything but a child of God, telling him to go back to America, like it is gorgeous. So basically, here he is telling people on live TV he's not in a good mood.
Not in a good mood. Our country was dead. We had a dead country because of an incompetent president and incompetent Democrats. All they know how to do is talk and think about conspiracy theories and nonsense.
What's funny to me, I have to say this, is that he actually looks like he's in a terrible mood. And I don't, and so what he says it, and it's like when a toddler, and you have kids, watch, when a kid says, and you're like, what's wrong with you? And they're like, I'm not happy, right? And they're like, and they're, you know, you can see it on their little, yeah, that's Donald Trump right now. He actually does seem miserable, which is funny. But it's not funny. It's funny, haha, to me. But here's one of the reasons why he's miserable. And then I'll let you pick it up on the other side of this. So basically, folks, you know, I always say I don't, you know, take a lot when it comes to polls. You know, you can get polls to say and do whatever you want. But what has been consistent? What has been consistent over the last 6-7 months is Donald Trump's numbers are in the toilet. And they're not just in the toilet, they're in the sewer. And they're not just in the sewer, they're draining down to hell. Like they can't actually, I mean, I want to say that they can't get worse. They can.
They will.
But I don't think that you want them to. So take a listen. This is, I don't know his name, but he's
Harry Enton.
Barry Enton?
Harry Enton, who is CNN's numbers guy.
Harry Enton is my new favorite analyst when it comes to polls. Move over, Kornacki, because this guy and his New York accent.
We are talking about independence, Mr. Berman. I will say this is the biggest warning sign, the biggest danger sign for President Trump in his second term so far. Why is that? Because it does not appear that there is a bottom to which Donald's support can't fall to. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating with independents. You know, there was all this hubbub about Gallup that came out this past week. You see, back in January, it was -2 points. Now it's -35 points. But what's important here is Gallup is largely matching the average. Back in January, in the average, Trump's net approval rating with independents was -3. Look at where it's fallen to now, -29 points. That is a drop of over 25 points with the key part of the electorate. If you're not winning among independents, you're probably not winning overall. And when your net approval rating's -29 points, you are definitely not winning overall when you're that low with independents.
It's just the size of the drop. I mean, it's staggering.
It's huge.
Okay, so how does this compare historically.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about Trump's overall approval rating, that it was the second worst overall. But we look among independents, it is the worst on record at this point. My goodness gracious, worst net approval ratings ever 6 months in among independents. Last time around, Trump broke the all-time record at minus 23 points. He is even lower than that now at minus 29 points. He has broken his own record for the worst on record. As I said at the beginning, there appears to be no fall, and Trump is certainly falling through that floor.
So during the Biden administration, I think there was a lot of thinking that maybe enough focus wasn't being paid to the effect that inflation had on people's thinking. And it may very well be that inflation is playing a bigger role in opinions than we recognize.
Yeah, so inflation in my mind was what cost Joe Biden the presidency
Look
more than
at
any
this.
other factor, and it brought him down. But guess what? Donald Trump at this point, his net approval rating on inflation among independents, it's actually worse than Biden's was a year ago. Biden was way underwater at minus 38 points. But look at Trump and the average of polls on inflation. Oh my goodness gracious, minus 45 points. I never thought I'd see the day, especially this early on in the Trump administration. The issue that in large part got him elected is at this point the issue more so than any other that is dragging him down. If this is what we have on midterm day come 2026, I can promise you this. The Republican majority in the House, you can wave adios amigos, goodbye to it, because Republicans, simply put, can't win with this number.
In addition to those numbers, folks, 2 weeks ago, when they polled about Trump's and Republican signature bill, the big, beautiful bill from hell, overall, negative 25, with independents, negative 44. And as more and more people find out that Republicans stole from their Medicaid to pay for permanent tax cuts for the rich, and once they hit after the midterm, Danielle, my fear is, forget the poll numbers, there's Luigi Mangione. And why was Luigi Mangione allegedly radicalized? Healthcare costs. People are going to die, and people have a lot of guns in this country. Now, people say, well, that might be hyperbolic. And I'm like, I don't think you're paying attention. I think you have a failure of imagination, right? So that was their signature bill. When it comes to immigration, which was his strong suit, he's now negative 5. When it comes to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he's been consistently negative double digits, like negative 19, negative 20, because people don't like their neighbors and grandmothers and kids to be, terrorized by masked armed agents. I don't know. Maybe that was just me, but apparently no, most Americans don't. And finally, when it comes to Epstein, last week, he was negative 35 on Epstein. And Epstein ain't going away. Donald Trump is on his tour. He's in the UK right now. Earlier today, he met with Keir Starmer, where yesterday he was in a bad mood. Today, he's even in a worse mood because reporters have finally found a spine. Reporters, egged on by MAGA, let's be honest, and Rupert Murdoch are finally asking him questions to his face and doing follow-ups and having no problem mocking him. Oh, such a huge shift from the sycophancy that we saw. And earlier today, we got clips from yesterday and today, because even yesterday, bad day for Trump. We'll show you some clips because they're just so amazing. His whole MO has been distraction, right? Let's distract. But it keeps coming back to Epstein. And he was asked about it today, and then he should just shut the F up. Shut the F up.
So I just want to, before I play that clip, I just want to show you. This is the ways, these are just some of the ways over the last several weeks that Donald Trump has tried to distract away from Epstein. It was the fight with Rosie O'Donnell and saying that he was going to denaturalize her. It was then saying that he was going to use cane sugar and Coca-Cola instead of corn, which pissed off the farmers. Then he threatened the Washington commanders to change their name back to their racist name that took 30 years for them to actually change to the Washington Commanders. Then he went back to an old favorite, Hillary's emails. Then he's showing and retweeting AI videos of Obama being arrested. Then it's Kamala being arrested. Then he's going to Oprah. Then it's Beyonce. Then it's Al Sharpton. And what do all of those people have in common outside of Hillary?
Today, the South Asian Muslim mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, just goes on a rant against him. Terrible, hate him, don't like him.
Yeah. So what do all of those people, aside from Hillary Clinton, have in common? Melanin. And so here is Donald Trump when he's asked by reporters, this was just a little bit ago, about Epstein. And again, Waj pointed this out last week on Friday's show when he said, what's really interesting? Why are the reporters, why are mainstream networks now starting to ask these questions and ask follow-ups? Because they waited for fucking Fox and Rupert Murdoch to give them the permission to be able to now say what they should have been saying for, I don't know, the last 10 years.
20 years. 20 years.
The Wall Street Journal comes out, they come out hitting with their heavy hitting with all of their investigation. Then you have Fox coming out and they ran the Ned Price op-ed saying that Tulsi Gabbard is fucking lying on the day that Tulsi Gabbard was doing what? Fucking lying along with bobblehead Barbie. So now here is Donald Trump getting asked a pointed question about Epstein.
Something that would have used it.
And people keep writing stories about the time he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach for him?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I
All
wouldn't
we
talk
have is
to
time.
Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again, and I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
On Gaza, next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you ask?
So here's the thing that I want to. So, dude, nobody asked, dude, did you ever go to the island? That is shit that he just offered up in that press conference. I am a media professional. I train people to go on TV. There is no which way in any time that you are offering more than a reporter is actually asking you to do that could potentially incriminate you. That's number one. Basic, right? Two, you never had the privilege of going to the island, the horror island, the island of abuse, the island of pedophiles and sexual abuse and rape. You never had the privilege of going. Waj, honestly, hand to God, do you think that Donald Trump never went to that island? Because something tells me that this freeloader never turns down a free trip.
Even if he never went to the island, I don't care, because he knew Epstein since the late 80s. He partied with Epstein. There are videos of him partying with Epstein. There are photos of him partying with Epstein. Donald Trump himself praised Epstein and openly said, but he likes young girls in 2002. Everyone in that orbit knows that Donald Trump and Epstein were close. Epstein said, according to Michael Wolff in the recording audio that we have, that he was Trump's closest friend until they're falling out. So he doesn't need to go to the island for me to know that there is some shady history with a man that he knew was an abuser of girls. And furthermore, I talked to Leland Nally, and that interview just took off and went viral. Leland, 5 years ago, wrote some articles for Mother Jones, and he called every single person in Epstein's Black Book, right? And Leland, by the way, speaking about journalists who fail up and journalists who don't, Leland, the guy who called every single name, made 2,000 phone calls. When I interviewed Leland last week, you know what Leland's doing? He's doing road work, Danielle, because he says, I can't pay the bills. And so Leland Nally, folks, I really spoke to him afterwards. It really affected me that he was telling me he was doing road work, despite he spent an hour with me, just talking about his amazing reporting. And he started his own Substack. And I said, listen, start your own Substack. People will support you. And people have. So go and look at Leland Nally's Substack. But in his first Substack post, he does a timeline of Donald Trump with Epstein. And what Leland told me was what's always disturbed him is that Donald Trump has made sexualized comments about young girls and his own daughter for years, coinciding with his partying with Epstein. So he does an amazing timeline, right? So for me, Danielle, suppose he didn't go to the island. We have enough on Donald Trump. Like, bro, what were
Oh
you
yeah,
doing?
I think that it's just really funny that he is so obsessed with telling you everyone else who went to this island as if the island didn't come to him on a regular fucking
There you
basis.
go.
That was the thing that I'm saying. Like, oh no, if he didn't go, then that doesn't mean that he's guilty. It's like, no, Mar-a-Lago is that fucking island. He had the ability to bring the island to him.
And Danielle, you said that Mar-a-Lago, right? This is what's even more infuriating. So if you listen to that clip that Danielle just played, he doesn't criticize Epstein for, oh, I don't know, being a serial abuser. He
Right.
doesn't criticize Epstein and say, oh yeah, he got the sweetheart deal by Alex Acosta, who later became by labor secretary. He says, oh yeah, he stole people from me, right? The people that he stole, I was just telling Danielle right before we press record in 2019, Politico had this piece where unsealed documents showed that some of the people that Epstein had, abused and groomed, guess where they worked? Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago.
And who was one of them? Virginia Jeffrey. Virginia Jeffrey, one of the most notable victims who called out Prince Andrew, who, by the way, folks, died by suicide in April. And so you would think, Daniel, as a media professional, say a comment about Jeffrey Epstein being a pedophile. Say a comment about, oh, I don't know, the victims. He can't even do it.
No.
Today, he didn't do it. And yesterday, when he was asked, he couldn't do it. And I wonder why. Maybe, just maybe, because he doesn't give a shit about people. He doesn't give a shit about women. And I believe, based on everything that we've heard, he was out there abusing women with Epstein for years.
I mean, so here's the thing, too. What I find really interesting, I'm so glad that you just brought that up. Like, do the bare minimum. Call the man a pedophile. You call everyone all types of names all day long for the past 10 years that you have been floating around the political sphere. Everybody gets a nickname. Everybody gets an insult, right? But the man who the whole world thinks is despicable and disgusting, he talks about not having the privilege to go to his island. He talks about them having a falling out, not because the man is a predator and, oh, I became privy to the fact that he's a predator because I spent time with him. No, he stole people from me. That was it. That is the thing that got their friendship on the rocks, is because he said to other people, I can pay you more money. I can do whatever. Leave Mar-a-Lago, come over to over here with me. And that's why Donald Trump is upset. So let's pause from this for a second, because again, Donald Trump's having a terrible, no good, very bad summer. Okay. He's had, like, there has been nothing, Waj, that has stuck to this man more than the Epstein files. For years, you and I have been talking. Nothing sticks to Teflon Don. Every story that we think is going to be the story just falls right off of him. We're on to the next bouncing ball. This has been the longest amount of time that the media, corporate mainstream media, has stayed on one story, and that it continues, right, to get fresh. It continues to put out new content, new things that we learn every single fucking week. This entire summer has been Epstein summer, right? So I want to pause from that for a minute, because the other reason, again, going back to all of the things that Donald Trump is trying to distract us with, are the tariff wars, right?
Yep.
Oh, I have these big, beautiful deals that I'm putting together. America's been cheated. We're going to get all of these deals, bop, bop, bop. I want you to take a listen to David Lynch, who's being interviewed. And so here is the interview. So here's what PBS News puts out. In Scotland, Trump and the European Union announced a major trade deal between their two massive economies. The framework for the deal includes a 15% general tariff on most EU goods entering the U.S. A 50% tariff on steel and aluminum would remain in place. In addition, Trump said the EU has agreed to buy some $750 billion in U.S. energy. But I want you to take a listen to David Lynch, who's a global economics correspondent with the Washington Post, and listen to how he frames these deals. Oh, Hold one quick second. Where is Mr. David Lynch? 1 second. Ha.
In Scotland, where President Trump and the European Union announced a major trade deal between their two massive economies.
We were able to make a deal that's very satisfactory to both sides. So it's a very powerful deal.
The framework for this preliminary deal includes a 15% general tariff on most EU goods entering the U.S. A 50% tariff on steel and aluminum would remain in place. In addition, Mr. Trump said the EU has agreed to buy some $750 billion in U.S. energy and invest hundreds of billions of dollars more. A much higher general tariff, 30%, was due to go into effect later this week. David Lynch is a global economics correspondent at the Washington Post. He's also the author of The World's Worst Bet: How the Globalization Gamble Went Wrong and What Would Make It Right. David, let's start, first of all, the U.S. is charging a 15% tariff from this preliminary deal with the idea of easing the U.S. trade deficit with the EU. What U.S. industries would stand to gain from this?
Well, I think we should start by saying this is really a bold departure from decades of U.S. trade policy that's been aimed at lowering trade barriers. This new 15% tariff or tax is something that American companies will have to pay to import European products. So it's going to raise prices for some American customers. We don't know exactly to what extent, but prices will go up, not down. Now that will affect anybody who brings in any European good in the auto industry, in the aircraft industry, French wines, you name it. This is going to affect anything that comes in from Europe.
And how about the reverse? The president likes to talk about the auto industry trying to make gains in Europe. Does that seem feasible, or what does the U.S. and what industries stand to benefit there?
Well, the president has complained frequently about European tariffs on raising the price of American cars that Detroit's Big Three would be trying to sell on the continent. The problem is the American automakers specialize in larger vehicles, big sport utility vehicles of the kind that are quite common here, obviously, and pickup trucks like the Ford F-150. And many Europeans say those vehicles just aren't suited for the tight confines of European cities like Paris and Brussels and other places. So it's not entirely clear just how much of a potential upside there is for the American automakers in Europe. And there are concerns on this side of the Atlantic about whether all of the various planks of the president's trade policy really fit together.
You said that part is not clear, but I want to ask you, is it even clear that all of this deal is set in stone? For example, President Trump has said that Europe will no longer charge any tariffs on American goods, but Europe, from my understanding, as we speak, has not confirmed that. How certain is this deal?
Yeah, I would say not certain. We've seen a number of occasions where the president has gotten out ahead of formal announcements and has announced some of these framework trade agreements, either with a Truth Social post or a press conference or remarks to reporters, and has claimed that items have been agreed or provisions have been agreed that we subsequently find out are not quite agreed to that extent. We've seen that in his discussion of planned Japanese investment in the United States, in the tariff rate on Vietnamese products, on the applicability of the tariff rates with Indonesia. And so the White House has not made public the sort of detailed text of trade agreements that we've seen in the past. And before I think we can render final judgments on any of these, we need to see more paper.
So, in a nutshell, David Lynch said, Donald Trump is full of shit. And all of these tariffs are taxes on the American people. We're talking about, on average, 15%, but in some instances, on particular products like steel and aluminum, we're talking about a 50% tax on the American consumer, because guess what? The businesses are not going to eat these tariffs. The American people are. So everything that comes in from the European Union, everything, chocolate, wine, energy, cars, everything coming in is now going to get a 15 to 50% tax coming in from the European Union. Now, Donald Trump has boasted, oh, where they're going to buy $750 billion worth of energy. Who said that? David Lynch said. Nobody from Europe has said that that's happening. We haven't seen this agreement written down on paper. We've seen Donald Trump post about it. So how likely is this to happen? The reporter asked, and he's like, unclear, maybe like a 50-50. So again, all of this wash, bullshit, distraction. Donald Trump is pretty much bullshitting his way through all of these trade deals where he announces these things on Truth Social, thinking that it's going to pressure the countries to act in his favor. And they're like, meh, we'll take our chances.
And furthermore, to make it worse, this is a man who went to UPenn. This is a man who went to Wharton Business School. I know people who went to Wharton Business School. They're very bright people. Wharton needs to give him and his father all their money back. Because how can a man go to Wharton Business School and not understand how tariffs work? Oh, yeah, if you're a dumbass like Donald Trump. And folks, I had Justin on. Justin is a really brilliant professor from University of Michigan. American president raises taxes on Americans across a wide range of goods. European Union president announces tax cuts for Europeans across a narrow range of goods. That's what happened. This is what happens when the world's dumbest people are put in charge. This is what happens when, instead of electing Kamala Harris, whether you thought she was great or not, you instead elect a friggin' white supremacist moron, a complete idiot who went to Wharton because he had a rich daddy, but didn't pay attention in school, and for whatever reason, since the 1990s, has been obsessed with trade wars and things that countries are screwing us. So then has Ron Vera, Larry Navarro, the man who used his own name as an acronym to use as an expert, who wants to crush China as his economic advisor, come in and do this stupid trade deal in which there are no deals. The trade war ends up just hurting ourselves. So it's like a trade suicide, more likely. And all these other countries are like, well, okay, if you want to destroy yourself, go ahead. We're just going to protect ourselves. And now we're going to deal with China. You want to be more powerful? Japan, EU, let's come together. It reminds me, this is the analogy that I thought of. Donald Trump is an arsonist who burns down the house and then comes with a bucket of water, throws the water not at the house, but at the people living outside the house and on himself, and then demands credit for being a firefighter. And now, like a majority of the building is killed. That was Trump's first presidency. That was Trump during his entire career as a businessman with the art of the deal, who freaking has 6 bankruptcies. And that is Donald Trump as a second president. We're witnessing the murder-suicide of America by the dumbest, most reckless person on earth, because the twin sins of America, racism and greed, are ultimately the ones that destroyed us in the manifestation of Donald Trump. He is not an evil genius. He is a moron. He is an idiot. He's a man of power and privilege who has abused it his entire life without any accountability. And each time he's asked to answer for his sins, his crimes, his idiocy, he does what? He rages and he distracts. Danielle, tell him about the distraction that happened yesterday. We mentioned it briefly, but I also want you to talk about and really think about this. If this was Biden saying this, what would happen?
I mean, it's like, to say that at this stage is just like whatever, because the media just doesn't give a shit. Biden stubs his toe and then people are like, oh my God, is he mentally competent? Right? Like, Biden can actually ride a bike. Donald Trump has cankles that are probably cutting off circulations to his heart, but they announced that he is, of sound health in mind. So here's Rolling Stone and Trayvon Free. Fantastic. In the question, are we not going to talk about how mentally unstable he is? Or is that just reserved solely for Democrats? Which is, yes, Trump rages about windmills and whales, claims he sent aid to Gaza, but no one said thank you. No one said thank you because they're starving to death. And also, oh, you didn't send food, you sent bombs. But before we get to that area of the world, Trump, another thing I say to Europe, we will not, oh, you know what? Let me not even read it. Y'all listen to him rant about windmills for a moment. I apologize.
I think they're going to end up in the same place. You might as well go there quicker. And the other thing I say to Europe, we will not allow a windmill to be built in the United States. They're killing us. They're killing the beauty of our scenery, our valleys, our beautiful plains. And I'm not talking about airplanes. I'm talking about beautiful plains, beautiful areas in the United States. And you look up and you see windmills all over the place. It's a horrible thing. It's the most expensive form of energy. It's no good. They're made in China, almost all of them. When they start to rust and rot in 8 years, you can't really turn them off. You can't bury them. They won't let you bury the propellers, you know, the props.
Bury the propellers.
There's a certain type of fiber that doesn't go well with the land. That's what they say. The environmentalists say you can't bury them because the fiber doesn't go well with the land. In other words, if you bury it, it will harm our soil. The whole thing is a con job. It's very expensive.
Speaking of con jobs, this was one of my favorite posts. Europeans watching this will be wondering if education is illegal in the United States.
Increasingly it is. And also within that interview yesterday, I think we finally found out the reason why he's against windmills, because there was a clip also where he talked about how he hates seeing windmills on the golf course. And maybe that's the reason, Danielle, that when he golfs, he sees windmills, or maybe he golfed one time and like he thought that the windmill would
that's
like
the only time he's outside.
Intercept the golf ball. And folks, honestly, that could be the reason. That could be the reason why he has this vendetta against an inanimate object that, you know, helps us have some, you know, healthy alternative to energy, right? Windmill and wind energy and solar energy. But he has this. It's like the windmill is his nemesis in life. And folks, he is so. Can you imagine? Just like, all right, we all have family members, and we have uncles and aunts in our community who aren't necessarily related to us, but you know, uncles and aunts. Someone said Don Quixote. That's hilarious. Exactly. I didn't say Don Quixote because like Don Quixote was an errant knight and he had some noble intentions and purposes, even though he's delusional. Even in his delusion, Donald Trump can't be noble. Okay. Remember, like we have family members and uncles and aunts in our community. You bring them over, and because they're your elder, you let them rant and say some whack stuff once in a while, and everyone just kind of looks at each other and like goes, and then exactly. And then you just like, when there's like strangers or friends over, you go, that's just our uncle. He's a little, we all got family members, right? And then you keep him in the corner and you entertain him with like, I don't know, I don't know. You show him fire. He goes, look at the fire. He goes, ooh, or you give him like a nice piece of steak. Okay. You don't make him the president of the United States of America. And now we have that doddering, racist, old, like foolish, ridiculous punchline of a joke uncle that all of us have in our families and communities. And this country, because it is so racist, is so delusional, it believes in fiction, decided to elevate this mother effer for the second time, Danielle, even after he effed up the country the first time. I mean, it is literally the murder-suicide of America. And like, I know we say this often, but sometimes these two clips that you've played recently, they just like, my brain is like,
it's hard.
I can't believe, you know how it hits you? Like, yeah. Oh shit. Like we are the dumbest country on earth.
Represents the United States. And there was a time not too long ago where you would think you must have to be really smart, educated, right? Learned to be the president of the free world. Well, we're not free anymore. And then you see Donald Trump and you see what whiteness does, because you bring up the schools that he was on the rolls for, but I believe that Donald Trump went there like people go to the mall, you're like window shopping. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm not necessarily buying anything. He didn't, like, Donald Trump is the perfect example of privilege, of idiocy, of whiteness wrapped up together. He didn't need an education because he had daddy's money, right? So he didn't need to learn anything. He didn't go to those schools to try and better himself because who could be better than him, right? So he, like, you listen to him and you're like, you've never read a book, right? I don't even think you read the one that was ghostwritten for you. So it's like, you don't need an education. You don't need to better yourself. Everyone else around you is quote unquote stupid and less than, because the only thing that you have is money and whiteness and maleness. And that's it. You've never actually had to strive, to create, to build, to do anything. And every time that your shoddy businesses would fall apart, there was somebody there to bail you out, right? Like, that is Donald Trump. And so it's like, it's enough to listen to him, folks. But then when you listen to these other people who were not born necessarily with as much privilege, they became privileged later on, but were not born with as much wealth and the name and privilege. And you listen to them kowtowing to Donald Trump, contorting themselves and running talking points. And you're just like, the entire system needs to be burned to the fucking ground. So I want you to take a listen, right? We're going to now go back to Epstein for a few minutes. Here is Kirsten Welker actually bringing the business to Lindsey Graham and saying to Lindsey Graham, I spoke with a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the assessment on the Russia interference, and she said it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked him to change this way. I want you to take a listen to this.
What the hell happened? Let's get a special counsel.
Hold on, Senator. As you know, former President Obama has weighed in through a spokesperson. He says that's just patently false. I actually spoke to Susan Miller, who's a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference. She says it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked them to change or sway their investigation. She says they all, she says, and she's a Republican, says they all would have quit if that had happened. Senator, are you trying to rewrite history to distract from the Epstein matter?
Whoa,
Senator?
a question.
I'm trying to let you know and the media know that we found something we didn't know before.
No. Oh, wow. Look at that. Meet the Press finally does something. It is confrontational journalism. It isn't just stenography. They don't do both sides.
So, same episode. A few minutes later, I don't remember who goes first, if it was Johnson or Graham, but listen to this now line of questioning to Mike Johnson.
Just heard my conversation with Congressman Massey, Congressman Khanna. So let me start off with this question. Why did you adjourn the House early? And does it run the risk of feeding the perception that there's something to hide in the Epstein matter?
Look, these are all important questions. Let me be absolutely clear, as we have been from the very beginning. House Republicans insist upon the release of all credible evidence and information related to Epstein in any way. But we are also insisting upon the protection of innocent victims. And our concern is that the Massey and Khanna discharge petition is reckless in the way that it is drafted and presented. It does not adequately include those protections, and I can explain all the details of that. With the important thing on the timing.
But, Mr. Speaker, it's not just Republicans supporting this. It's 11, not just Democrats, it's 11 Republicans as well. Let me just ask you, because I hear you saying that, yes, the files should be made public while protecting the victims. Let me just ask you, though, should all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein be released and made public?
Yes, I agree with President Trump, with the Department of Justice, with the FBI, that you need all credible evidence and information out there. That word credible is important. And why? Because you have to protect innocent people's names and reputations whose names might be, as you noted at the outset of the program, intertwined into all these files. This has been a long legal process.
Isn't that what redaction is for? Or am I wrong? Right? Like, the whole purpose of redacting things is to ensure that only the evidence, only the information that won't incriminate other people or, damage their character, et cetera, is redacted. So again, Kirsten Walker, I had no idea she knew how to ask follow-up questions. It's wild to me, but how exciting. And then you have people like this. These are, again, you listen to Donald Trump and you're like, oh, he's stupid. I get it, but he's born with a platinum spoon in his mouth, etc. These people have had to actually work to where they've gotten. I don't know who got this guy, but I also hate his name because why? Why? But anyway, so Senator Mark Wayne Mullen tried to blame former President Barack Obama for Jeffrey Epstein's 2008 plea deal, despite Obama not being president at the time. It is amazing to me how this black man lives rent-free in these motherfuckers' minds and has so much power that he was able, Waj, to get Epstein a deal before he was even president of the United States. Tell us how that works.
That works when you suffer from it's a really rare disease called the racism. And racism is not genetic, but it is contagious, and it's spread throughout the GOP in certain centrist parts of America. And the racism is so bad that you can't mention it, like Voldemort, because it's so bad. If you mention it and you say it, you become a racist. So instead, you have to call it the cultural anxiety and economic anxiety. And the racists, they spawn sometimes, they breed and create other racists. It becomes, unfortunately, part and parcel of the cultural milieu of a certain demographic. And Mark Wayne is a representative of that, but I think he might be too dumb to realize he's spreading the racism. Folks, sorry, thank you for indulging me. This is Mark Wayne, Senator Mark Wayne. I've been following for a little bit because Norm Ornstein, he always says, who's dumber, Mark Wayne or Tuberville? And I think right now we finally have the answer that Mark Wayne is dumber. This guy, he's so stupid. And he goes on TV and has no shame. Like, he's perfectly fine, willing to make a complete ass of himself, completely in over his head, but he does it because the cult member follows the orders of the cult leader. The willing peon, the reek, the capo follows the orders of the Godfather. And so Mark Wayne is still riding MAGA. Mark Wayne is still riding Donald Trump's red tie, and he's willing to go and completely humiliate himself because he doesn't understand math. And folks, Obama was not president then. Who was president? George Dubs. George Dubs was president. And again, who was the U.S. attorney who gave Jeffrey Epstein an unheard of sweetheart deal in Florida, where Jeffrey Epstein admits, I am a pedophile. Yes. He is a convicted pedophile, right? Yep. Everyone knows what he's doing. Pedophiles go to jail. Pedophiles have to, put themselves in a registry, right? That's what Epstein had to do. So you know what Epstein did instead of go to jail? In his absurd sweetheart deal that's been given to no one else, 6 out of the 7 days, he was essentially living in his penthouse. Yep. He then self-reported to Club Fed on the 7th day. But other than that, he was, just chilling, being Jeffrey Epstein, probably, abusing women.
Still having girls.
Still having girls. And then later, I think it was Wall Street Journal. Alex Acosta, by the way, folks, later went on to become Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor in his first administration. Acosta is still alive. Maybe we should ask Alex Acosta, why did you give this pedophile a deal that has been unheard of, where literally it's not even a slap on the wrist, it's like a slap on the pinky, right? And then apparently it was the Wall Street Journal reported that when asked, Acosta said that he was informed that Epstein was intelligence.
Yep.
Intelligence for who, Danielle?
Well, intelligence for where we turn to next. Israel.
Oh, you went there. Okay.
Yeah, I did. Let's go. So here's Donald Trump once again. He is in the EU. And a reporter says to him, what do the images of starving kids in Gaza make you feel? Trump, well, it's terrible. People are stealing the food. I think Iran is acting up. Venezuela is acting up in a different way. They continue to send people that we rebuff to our border. What? What the fuck are you talking about exactly? Because the question was, what is happening in Gaza? How does it make you feel to see pictures of starving children? So let's do another question. Reporter, should Israel be doing more to allow food into Gaza? Oh, I don't know, like moving the fuck out of the way? What? There is nothing more. Move the fuck out of the way.
Don't shoot them.
Aid can get in. Don't shoot people. Don't blow up the aid trucks. Don't kill aid workers, right? It's like, should they be doing more like getting the fuck out of the way? Nonetheless, Trump, say it. Reporter, should Israel be doing more to allow food in Gaza? Trump, what is she saying? Someone else. Should Israel be doing more to allow food in Gaza? Here's Trump. You really at least want to have somebody say thank you.
Jesus.
No other country gave anything. We gave 60 million for food for Gaza. Let's go to the facts, actually, because he's a fucking liar and he is soulless and heartless. And honestly, if there was something less than an amoeba, I don't know if Donald Trump would qualify for that. But here's the truth. Trump gave Israel the bombs it uses to kill civilians. He armed Israel's siege that starved Gaza's people. He defunded UNRWA and USAID. He proposed the forced displacement, aka ethnic cleansing, that Israel is now openly pursuing in Gaza. Do you remember the commercial of Trump Gaza, the new Riviera of the Middle East? And he wants Palestinians to thank him? Waj?
Folks, since May, Israel has killed more than 1,000 Palestinians who were gathered at food aid distribution sites in Gaza. So what does that mean? Palestinians are starving. They're under stage 5 starvation right now, which means that they're about to drop dead. And even if they don't drop dead, we're talking about permanent damage. We're talking about the way Jewish kids were, without hyperbole, when Allied forces found them during the Holocaust, right? Like the brink of death. They were being starved to death. Children are dying. And then those Palestinians who gather at one of these few aid distribution sites in Gaza, the IDF has been commanded to shoot at these unarmed, starving Palestinians who are gathering at the food aid distribution sites. I just want you all to sit with that. They have shot and killed more than 1,000 Palestinians this way since May. The Haaretz did a piece on this and quoted an IDF soldier who called it, quote, the killing field. All right. UNICEF said, I want to make sure with the UNICEF. Yep. UNICEF, quote, of the people who have starved to death in Gaza since the beginning of the war, 80% are children. Just a couple of days ago, BBC did this report. The BBC report, really some fantastic documentaries are coming out. They interviewed a retired U.S. colonel. Retired U.S. colonel, white man, talked to the BBC and said, I have fought against ISIS. I have fought against Al-Qaeda. I have never seen the level of brutality and barbarity that I witnessed in Gaza when I was with U.S. contractors and the IDF. The man has fought against Al-Qaeda. He has fought against ISIS. And this man, a retired U.S. colonel, says, I have never seen more brutality and barbarity than I saw in Gaza. Okay. I just want people to realize this is what's happening. Sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
I was going to say, we'll take a listen to him.
Is Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, a Special Forces veteran of the U.S. Army's Green Berets. He's in Washington. I spoke to him from a spot just near the Gaza border.
I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces shooting at the crowds of Palestinians. I witnessed the Israeli Defense Forces firing a main gun tank round from the Merkava tank into a crowd of people, destroying a car of civilians that were simply driving away from the site. I witnessed artillery rounds landing at the intersection of the Mar-a-Lago corridor and the coastal road. I witnessed mortar rounds being fired at the crowds of people to keep them controlled onto the Mar-a-Lago corridor in the south.
As a professional soldier with a very long career, what was your professional opinion of what was happening?
My professional opinion of how the sites were established was what I would describe as amateur. Inexperienced, untrained, no idea of how to conduct operations of this magnitude. That would be my most benign assessment. In my most frank assessment, I would say that they're criminal. In my entire career, have I never witnessed the level of brutality and use of indiscriminate and unnecessary force against a civilian population, an unarmed, starving population. I've never witnessed that in all of the places I've been deployed to war until I was in Gaza at the hands of the IDF and U.S. contractors.
So who is responsible for this? These war crimes? Israel and the United States of America. Who is the biggest funder of Israel, providing them with $3 billion a year of our tax money? And that does not include all of the weaponry and bombs and tanks and planes that they have received since October 7th, since October 7th, right? The United States and Israel. And Donald Trump had the fucking audacity with a straight face to say, I sent $60 million worth of food. No, actually, you sick motherfucker. You've been burning food, right? That is actually even supposed to go not just to poor countries, actually supposed to go to our kids here in the United States. And you just, sir, last week directed the Department of Agriculture to incinerate that food. So you want us to believe that you are sending food to Gaza? Give me a fucking break.
He has gutted Palestinian relief to Gaza. USAID is destroyed. At least 300,000 kids have died as a result. UNRWA has been gutted. Pro-Palestinian students have been detained and kidnapped unlawfully. He has shared, like you mentioned, that AI video, that gaudy, obscene AI video of what Gaza will look like once Gaza is cleansed. We know that is the intention and goal because the Israel Security Cabinet voted to permanently occupy Gaza and remove the population. That's ethnic cleansing, that's genocide. And then Donald Trump wants to make it the Riviera of the Middle East, where him and Jared Kushner will apparently create, I don't know, condos for Israelis and their friends. Meanwhile, the Palestinians, if they're alive, get to be moved to Jordan and Egypt. Again, that is if they survive. And if this is successful, it's going to move from Gaza to the West Bank because Netanyahu and the freaks right now who are in the Israeli regime, such as Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, they're openly telling you folks, river to the sea, it belongs to us. They don't give an F. And I also want to remind people, because people only blame Donald Trump, it's not just Donald Trump. It is the Biden administration and the Trump administration. It is the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment. Biden gave Netanyahu a green light. Biden, for his trademark empathy, folks, his empathy is non-existent for Palestinians. Biden is an ideological, committed Zionist. Biden could have stopped Netanyahu. Yep. People say, what could U.S. do? Oh, I don't know what Reagan did in 82 when he saw the horror that was happening in Lebanon. This is 10 times worse. Reagan picked up the phone, called the Prime Minister of Israel, Begin, and said, I see a Holocaust on my TV screen. You better end this. 20 minutes later, they said, okay, we'll stop, right? You saw Dwight Eisenhower pick up the phone and do it. Without U.S. aid and weapons, as Danielle pointed, the billions of dollars that we send, the billions of weapons that we send, the blank check that we give, the international support and cover we give them through our diplomatic ties, Israel would not be able to do this. Israel is not suicidal. They need U.S. weapons, U.S. funding, and U.S. cover. So literally, if Biden or Trump picked up the phone and said, we will cut off weapons unless you stop this, Forget overnight, Danielle. That day, they would stop it. And what do our elected officials say? Israel, you have gone too far. Let's give you another blank check. Israel, don't expand settlements. Do you want some more money? Israel, don't occupy. All right, well, come on over, Netanyahu. Let's take a bipartisan photo. That just happened 2.5 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Jackie Rosen, Chris Coons, Adam Schiff, and one other person took a photo with war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. As they know this is happening, Danielle, as they know that their base has moved away from Gaza, as they know that so many people didn't vote for Biden because of the genocide, they still did this. Danielle, after everything we've just said right now, 2 weeks ago, how do you explain it that Schumer and these Democrats decided to take a chummy photo with war criminal Netanyahu?
Oh, I'll tell you, because Philip put it here, AIPAC. Because I ran the receipts on my Instagram stories, and ask me how much money Hakeem Jeffries have received from AIPAC.
How much?
Over $800,000.
Wow.
Last year, over $800,000. These people, these Democrats, and that is Democratic leadership. You're talking 600,000 for the whip. You're talking, 700,000, 500,000. The money that these people receive from AIPAC to make themselves comfortable with genocide, right, is close to $1 million. So then you ask yourself right now, well, how are Democrats doing if we've just laid out the last 56 minutes of what Donald Trump has said, how fucking unhinged he sounds, the trade deals that are from hell, that are going to do nothing but hurt the American worker, the starvation that is happening in Gaza, aided and abetted by the United States. So where are Democrats right now? Well, take a look. Wall Street Journal poll. The Democratic Party's image has hit its lowest point in over 30 years. Just 33% favorable and 63% unfavorable. And to be honest, I think it should be fucking lower. I think favorable should be somewhere around 1%. Like, Democrats don't get it, because when they had the opportunity to look around and say, well, Donald Trump has won. What is it that we need to do? Let's do our own Democratic autopsy on the 2024 election. And what did they come up with, Waj? I have an idea. Let's run away from immigration and sell those people out. Let's run away from Gaza and sell those people out. Let's run away from the horrors that Donald Trump is doing. Let's run away from everything. Let's run away from identity politics, and let's run to the center that no longer exists. And what if the people decided, as based by these polls, is that, you know what? Fuck you. Yep. Because while one party is clearly a cult, right, and clearly has no bottom, the Democratic Party has shown itself to be one that has no resistance, that has no backbone, that has no strategy, that has no plan. And it is clear every single day. There are a few standouts, right? Chris Van Hollen, who we talked about, went over to El Salvador to go give us proof of life about Abrego Garcia, who is now currently free. He's on Face the Nation, and he's talking about what is happening in Gaza, and he says, this is a big lie. The claim that when UN organizations were delivering food to Palestinian civilians, that it was being systematically diverted to Hamas, I want to say loudly and clearly, this is a big lie.
And who admitted that it was a lie, folks, just a couple of days ago? The Israeli military called out the Israeli government and said, we have not seen Hamas stealing this aid. That's the lie that the Israeli government promoted to the world. Well, the reason we can't allow humanitarian aid is because Hamas steals it. So we just got to starve these Palestinians. And the military came out and said, actually, we haven't seen that. And finally, due to the pressure, the immense pressure over the weekend, Israel let a little bit of the aid go. So these Democrats sat there and parroted Israel's lie, even though with their own eyes, we saw Israel shooting and killing and starving these Palestinians. Every single respected international human rights agency that's on the ground there has been saying this, right? The doctors, the nurses, UN workers, right? We can't see journalists there because Israel doesn't allow Western journalists in Gaza. I wonder why. If it was such a moral army and everything was going well, you'd think they'd allow the press, but they didn't. And I just want people to know that despite all of that, we're seeing a genocide in real time with our taxpayer dollars. Our elected officials to this day are busy criticizing Zoran Mamdani for a chant he never used, but sat there and took a photo with Netanyahu. F all these people. I want a culling of the Democratic Party. If you're not willing to stand up to the moment, get out, get out, get out.
So finally, as we close out today, Ro Khanna, who Waj and I interviewed several weeks back, was at an event, Fight for Our Future Summit. And he said, the old guard needs to go. The Democratic Party needs a rebirth to stand up for human rights. This party needs a rebirth to stand up for people over the donor class. It's time to take our party and our country back. I'll give you to take a listen. And Waj, I will turn it to you,
This clear point. The old guard needs to go. The old ways have not been working. This party needs a new rebirth. This party needs a rebirth to stand for human rights. This party needs a rebirth to stand for the working class. This party needs a rebirth to stand for people over the donor class. This party needs a rebirth to find our courage in standing up for immigrant rights instead of running away when people talk about immigration. This party needs more people like you in Congress than the current people we have in Congress. I'm here to say that a new Democratic Party, a reborn Democratic Party, a populist Democratic Party, a multiracial Democratic Party, a Democratic Party that centers the working and middle class, a Democratic Party that looks like the future is a Democratic Party that can lead us back to victory and lead us to a better America. It's time to take back our party and then to take back our country.
Your thoughts, your final thoughts as we close out today.
Ro kind of sees where the wind is blowing, and Ro realizes the old guard, and it's pretty clear who's Ro's talking about. It's done. And so what we've been saying on Democracy-ish, you have to read between the leaves, right? You have to read the tea leaves, as they say. And there was a brewing civil war, what I said. And I said, it's happening in the Democratic Party. It's just not happening publicly. Everyone's jockeying for leadership because there's a vacancy, right? And everyone's trying their own messaging. Now you're seeing people consolidate and say, okay, we're seeing the poll numbers and the old guard has to go. We didn't hear that before, Danielle, right? So Ro and a few others are like, all right, we're taking you mother effers out. And you saw AOC say it right before the vote when she did a town hall or that campaign stop in New York for Zoran Mamdani. She openly criticized the old guard. By old guard, we're not talking about age. We're talking about, the Schumers and the power. She says, we have tried our best to work with them, but each and every single time they say, shut up, right? Get in the corner. I'm paraphrasing. So the fact that this is coming out publicly now, and the fact that you're seeing people like Van Hollen and Ro Khanna and AOC and others, you're witnessing it, folks. You're witnessing what we called would be the Tea Party revolution of the Democratic Party of 2012 and 2014, right? It's happening. And I'm here for it. There has to be a culling of the Democratic Party. As Danielle said, they have the lowest favorability rating since 1994. People are fleeing them, right? And if they believe they can get in power because the Republicans are so bad and they can retake the House and just go status quo, got another thing coming, folks. You got another thing coming. The status quo ain't going to work. And also, I'll tell you that Schumer and Pelosi and the rest, they ain't going to go down quietly or easily. They're like friggin' Charlton Heston. They're going to hold on to that rifle with their cold, dead hands. Even when they're dead, they're going to be like, I'm still here. So we need that, we need more and more Ro. I'll be very blunt. Ro came, and I'll be very transparent. Ro came on our show. We kind of grilled him. And then he texted me. He goes, man, I wasn't expecting you all to grill me like that. We're like, hey, we're keeping it real. I saw that quote from Ro. I texted him. I said, good, more stuff like this. So when there are people who do the right thing. I have no problem praising them. And when Democrats or liberals or progressives or friggin' anyone else does the wrong thing, I hope you all who are tuning in realize that me and Danielle, we call them out. We don't bend the knee to Democrats. We don't bend the knee to Republicans. We don't bend the knee to kings or queens. We do not bend the knee to fascists, right? We keep it real. We went a little extra long today because there was a lot to talk about. This was the Monday edition of Democracy-ish. We are live every Monday and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then we do a midweek check-in where, you know, sometimes we're supposed to talk about something different like pop culture, but oftentimes because there's so much chaos, we just pick up whatever the news is of the day. And that's on Substack at 3 p.m. Eastern time. If you have not become a paid subscriber to our Substacks, that's okay. Because like fools, we keep everything for free. There are no paywalls. So at the very least, you can, I hope, become a free subscriber. But for all those people who will give us these tips, just like Linda right now, thank you so much. It goes a long way. We're independent. If you're watching on YouTube, please, please, please click the bell and you will be a free subscriber to Danielle Moody and the 4,000 shows she hosts each week. Danielle has 28,000 viewers. We're trying to get her to 30,000. If you're watching right now, please like this video. We'll publish it in about, I don't know, like 5 minutes on YouTube. It'll be on our Substack, hopefully in an hour or two. My Substack is The Left Hook. Daniel's Substack is The Damn Digest. Again, no paywalls. We depend on the kindness of strangers. If you have a few bucks, give a few bucks. If you don't, that's okay. And we will be back Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Danielle, final word to you, man.
I just want to say special thanks to Susan, our moderator, who keeps everything going in the chat and gives us donations every single week. Barb, who drops money every single week. Ms., thank you so much. Moondragon, Motown with $49.99. That goes an incredibly long way. Thank you so much. Aylin, Demetrius, Susan again, Jules, Linda, Susan again. Overtime fee. Susan, we appreciate you. And again, you know, we keep our content free because we believe that, you know, everyone should have access to information. Information should not be left behind a paywall. We need more people that are conscious, that are sharing, that are waking up and recognizing their power. Folks,
and we got 1,100 people watching us on Substack right now. And really kind comments. Thank you so much, Christina, Joanna, SK, NYC Jabrat, Shambhavi asks, how do we give money while watching on Substack? I don't think you give money while watching on Substack. Yes. You can become a paid subscriber, but on YouTube, if you watch us on YouTube right now, you can give a tip. And the tip is essentially goes a long way because we, again, have no corporate sponsors. We're completely independent. Jacqueline, with a really nice comment on Substack, Bridget. So thank you all. Lori, fantastic. Thanks all for watching.
Thank you, guys. We will see you on Wednesday on Substack, both of ours, Damn Digest and The Left Hook. We appreciate all of you who tune in live. This video will be up. Like, comment, and share. Become a subscriber for free. If you have a few bucks, think about becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. But no, you will never miss any content that the both of us put out. We appreciate you all. Be kind, be safe, stay sane. And as Waj says, don't be a fascist. We'll see you on Wednesday.